Hi, my name is Jared, and this is Horror Obsession. Today, I want to talk about episodes 5, 6, and 7 of The Last of Us. There is a lot of ground to cover here, so I'm not going to recap the episodes, but I will say there was a high variability in the quality between them. Like all the rest of these videos, there's going to be spoilers, so deal with it. Let's start with the good. Pedro Pascal continues to shine as Joel, delivering again and again with great performances that are carrying the show. Henry and Sam were really well written and acted in episode 5, and Kathleen was a really good villain. It was kind of annoying on a character level how she is so obsessed with revenge she ignores the fungus infection, especially when it's capable of this. But that is the character they were going for. Her tragic flaw was an obsession with revenge. Fair enough. In fact, all of episode 5 was good. We finally got to see the zombies in action, and they were very scary and intimidating, and you could imagine how they destroyed the world in the first place. It does make the fact that there are cities thriving for decades kind of silly. I mean, these would overrun their little walls with no problem, but whatever. Episode 5 was great, and is this show at its finest. The next 2 episodes, however, showcase the major flaws with the show, but to explain what I mean, let's back up slightly. My major complaints about the first 4 episodes were the fact Ellie is dismissive of the danger of the world she lives in to a ridiculous degree.
Yes, sir, I would like your finest suite, please. Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to check your luggage? Yes, ma'am. Right away, ma'am.
And the fact this was discordant with what we know of her history. She has been bit and would not have known she was immune at the time, so she must have had to accept her extremely imminent death. Presumably this would have been quite traumatizing for someone who's only 14 to really, honestly, truly feel they were going to die in the next few hours. Well, we finally get to see the scene where it happens, and The Last of Us wants the audience to see how horrific and traumatizing the incident really was. Because not only was she bit, but her roommate / love interest was also bit in the exact same incident. This is all well and good, but it worsens the issue with Ellie's character even further. We get this big emotional payoff of her past, and apparently her reaction to having Riley dying is this.
Way. You ever play this one? I had a friend who knew everything about this game. There's this one character named Melina who takes off her mask and she has monster teeth and then she swallows you whole and barfs out your bones.
Everyone processes trauma differently, but this reveals a very deep flaw in Ellie's character writing. She does not react or respond to the events of the story in a realistic way. Most characters have what writers call a ghost, something in their past that was tragic and informs their actions in the present. Ellie's ghost is clearly supposed to be the death of Riley, but she does not act like that incident is influencing her decisions.
Yes, sir, I would like your finest suite, please.
She acts like she's too cool for the story and shouldn't be bothered with things like caring about danger or whether she's being rude or obnoxious to others. This isn't endearing, it is infuriating. This was clear from the very beginning by piecing together what we know of her history as I explained before. She does not act like a 14-year-old whose parents have been killed, grew up living in an apocalypse zombie-infested nightmare world, and who has been bitten and came to terms with the fact she was going to imminently die along with her best friend and roommate. She just doesn't. Instead, she acts like she knows she's the main character of the story and is invincible.
Where'd you learn to do that?
The circus.
I don't hear it.
Who would you hear?
Who would you hear?
I had kept holding out hope that this would change as the episodes went along and she would start to act like she was in a show where the world had been destroyed by horrific fungus zombies, but she really never does. There are glimmers of character development once Joel gets stabbed, but it really feels as though the clock is winding down on her character being salvageable. In my last video, I discussed how bizarre it felt for Ellie to be making jokes at Joel's expense and yelling at him.
What? Is it something lame? Like you fell down the stairs or something?
I didn't fall down any stairs.
Okay, so what then? Look, I've been thinking
I
about...
don't want your sorries.
I wasn't going to say I'm sorry. I was going to say that I've been thinking about what happened.
Instead of using basic human empathy to console him in some way. This sequence is far more baffling now that we know Ellie's love interest died a few short weeks prior to this incident. Where is the scene where Ellie is like, I didn't know Tess that well, but I could tell she loved you. I lost someone myself. I share your pain. Ellie is written as if giving a shit about anyone else, even in times of shared tragedy, is somehow a weakness. I think the writers believe this to be a good way for her to be a strong female character, since empathy is feminine or something, so if she shows any compassion, that would undermine how awesome she is. Great characters are not afraid of their emotions. Part of what makes Clarice Starling such a memorable and all-time great character is her struggling with the death of her father, even all these years later. Her psyche is permanently warped by this tragic event, and she carries the wounds of her loss with her all the time. The reason Hannibal bonds with her is he recognizes her pain instantly, and he gets her to open up about her sorrow by playing off her ambition.
Daddy!
Hey, Clarice. All right.
Did you get any bad guys today, Daddy?
No, Angel, they all got away, Daddy.
Clarice is a perfect example of a strong female character done well. She is intelligent, charismatic, competent, underestimated because of her stature and gender, but still capable of accessing her emotions when she feels it is advantageous to do so. Ellie is written more like Galadriel from Rings of Power. For example, Galadriel is yelling at the Númenóreans in a fit of rage despite them saving her life and sheltering her. Ellie does the exact same thing when taken to the town Joel's brother is in.
Well, maybe I'm smarter than Tommy. No offense.
Ellie, let's mind our manners.
What?
What's wrong with you?
What about her manners?
A stunning lack of gratitude that makes it hard to identify with her character. I don't think it's a coincidence the consensus best episode of the show so far is the episode which features almost none of Ellie, the amazing episode 3, and the worst episode of the season so far is the episode which features almost all Ellie, the uninspired episode 7. This brings me along to another element of the show, these long, extended flashback scenes. Lots of shows butter their bread in this way. I mean, Lost featured a flashback for each character in season 1, and these flashbacks added interesting context to what we knew about them, sometimes even dramatically shifting what we thought we knew about a character. The reveal that John Locke's character was actually paralyzed prior to the plane crashing is one of the most shocking and brilliant reveals in television history, for example. The Last of Us does not use the flashbacks to drive the story forward. In fact, the story mostly feels stuck in place while the flashbacks are happening. What dramatic revelation did we experience from episode 3? The whole episode is essentially to add context to the letter written for Joel, which is supposed to signify the turning point where Joel realizes he must protect Ellie, as Tess is dead and he is Ellie's protector now. I am on board with this. It is a bit of a long way to achieve this goal, but it works because the story is so good in that episode. However, in episode 6, Joel goes through the exact same character arc. He, once again, has to decide whether he stays with Ellie or not, and it really felt like the character arcs were going in circles. Didn't we already establish he's going to protect her now? As far as episode 7 is concerned, the flashback adds a little background for Ellie's character, but most of it we already knew. We already know she's been bit, we already know she loses her temper and gets angry easily.
What?
What's wrong with you?
What about her manners?
We didn't know she is interested in women, I guess, but an entire episode to establish that feels a bit excessive. The character work that happened in this episode would have been much better received had it been cross-cut with scenes from the present that moved the story forward. More like how Lost handled the flashbacks. The lack of narrative momentum feels a bit like watching a football game recorded where you already know who wins. Okay, we get it. Ellie is gonna get bit, and Riley's gonna die. I guess it's interesting to find out exactly how, but not as interesting as a game of football I haven't seen before. Overall, episode 5 was fantastic and I loved it. Episodes 6 and 7 were kinda dull, and Ellie as a character has completely lost me. She is supposed to be the heart and soul of the show, but I don't really care about her, and that's a major problem. Going so in depth into the flashbacks has hurt the momentum of the show, a problem which could be mitigated by cross-cutting the flashbacks with the present so it feels like time isn't standing still while they happen. There are only 2 more episodes to fix these issues, so maybe HBO will finally please those of us with a determined horror obsession.